Welcome back. Today, I'm going to explain an action thriller film called The Gangster, The Cop, and the Devil. Spoilers ahead. Watch out. A man's car is hit by a stranger. The man takes pictures of the damage for claiming car insurance. Suddenly, the stranger brings out a knife, stabbing the man brutally to death. On the way to the crime scene, Young Tae-suk, a cop, bitterly agitates over his inability to solve the murder cases on the rise and secure himself a promotion. He sights a group of thugs on the streets. He steps out and cockily walks into their building, pushing everyone aside. They try bribing him to get him to go away, but this makes Tae-suk very upset. Jang Dong-soo has his gloves on and is punching a bag. His right-hand man walks in and informs him that the cops are here. Then Dang-soo orders his men to put down the punching bag. When they unzip the bag, we see what Dang-soo had been punching against the entire time. He orders that the man in the bag be wrapped up and sent back. Dang-soo then calls Tae-suk's boss on Ho-bong to stop Tae-suk from disrupting his business. When Tae-suk arrives at the crime scene, he takes a look at the crime scene, and he believes that it's the work of a serial killer. Later, Dang-soo and his rival Song-do meet up. Song-do tells Dang-soo that he's hungry for more than the crumbs he's been given. Dang-soo tells him he doesn't wish to spoil him with more favors so he could stop making trouble. He tells Song-do that if he chooses to cross the line, he would end up dead. While the two bodyguards meddle in their conversation, Dang-soo doesn't waste any time punishing them severely. The officers at the station ponder over the lack of evidence at the crime scene. Ho-bong concludes that this might have been a robbery homicide. Tae-suk, furious with these conclusions, explains that the recent incident and two before were done by a single killer using the same method, but his boss does not believe him and instead gets upset at his claims. Meanwhile, Jang Dong-soo is on his way home after the meeting with Song-do when the same killer hits his car and eventually tries to kill him. A brutal fight ensues, leaving both of them injured. Finally, the killer escapes after knocking Dong-soo with his car. Dong-soo is admitted to the hospital, and his henchmen assume that the attack was committed by a rival gang, whom they counterattack. However, Dong-soo believes the killer was not a rival gang member as his moves seem to be random and purposeless. Tae-suk visits Dong-soo at the hospital and asks him to cooperate so that he can catch the killer for him, but Dong-soo does not comply. Song-do then visits Dang-soo at the hospital. He sarcastically asks how he feels, and he tells him he feels bad seeing him in this current state. Song-do asks what they should do about the mess Dang-soo boys had made, making Dang-soo promise to compensate for the mess. He continues making fun, asking how it's possible a gangster was stabbed. Meanwhile, Tae-suk tries to convince Ho-bong that they would have a long train of solved cases if they decide to go after and catch the killer. He also tells him they have a potential witness, but when he mentions the witness to be Dang-soo, Ho-bong tells him to shut it. He tells Tae-suk that it's a gang rivalry, and he would assign the case to the proper unit. Tae-suk then accuses him of covering for Dang-soo. Ho-bong finally cuts out the bullshit and tells him that he can't arrest Dong-soo as he was the victim. Tae-suk insists that Dang-soo might go after the killer himself as he has the resources to do so, and this would leave them with 3 unsolved cases. Tae-suk he's had enough, and he pushes him out of his office. Dang-soo outlines the description of the killer for an artist who pulls out a sketch. Then he orders his men to find the killer by using the sketch. Tae-suk eventually carries out a raid on Dang-soo's gambling operation. Then he visits Dang-soo at his home. In his home, Tae-suk exposes to him that the person who attacked him is a serial killer. Dang-soo is shocked by this information. He asks Tae-suk what he meant. Tae-suk explains that the killer randomly picks out his victim, and that's why he went after him. He requests information about the killer from Dang-soo so he could catch the man, put him on trial, and lock him up for good. Dang-soo is dissatisfied with the outcome the cop was proposing, and he had something else in mind. After taking a tour of the building for the new casino, Dang-soo is briefed by his right-hand man Kwon Oh-sung on the current situation with clients and investors for the new project. Oh-sung also brings up concerns about Song-do boys moving into their turf. Dang-soo inquires about the search for the killer as it seemed to be the one thing on his mind. Oh-sung tells him they managed to find his car and a knife. Dong-soo eventually informs Tae-suk of the findings, and they decide to team up to catch the mysterious killer. Dang-soo tells Tae-suk that he wishes to find the killer so he could chop him up and put him on display, as reputation is everything to a gangster. Dong-soo agrees to provide manpower and cover expenses, but on the condition that the killer belongs to the one who finds him first. While Tae-suk is preparing his team with all the information, He motivates them that they could end up solving 5 connected murder cases and eventually get promoted. Meanwhile, Dong-soo orders his right-hand man, Hwan Oh-sung, to kill his rival Song-do with the killer's knife, which already had the blood imprints of the killer's previous victims. Later, Tae-suk sneaks up on his colleague Cha Seo-jin. She takes him down with a swift response. Surprised to see Tae-suk, she asked why he was there. Embarrassed, he replies he had been waiting for her. The two proceed to have a conversation, and Tae-suk gives her a bag containing evidence he got from the car, and he pleads with her to run an analysis on them. Seo-jin confirms to Tae-suk that she found the DNA of the recent murder victims in the samples he gave to her, but nothing else. She also tells him the DNA of the truck owner and puppy mill owner were found on the weapon used to murder Song-do. An enraged Tae-suk gets into a fight with Dong-soo when he learns the killing of Song-do has been confirmed to be the work of a serial killer, and the case would get transferred to the major case squad. Dong-soo visits Song-do's funeral, where the killer also turns up, informing Song-do's second-in-command man that it was Dong-soo who actually killed Song-do with the killer's knife. When Tae-suk and Dong-soo check the killer's car for any evidence, they are attacked by Song-do's henchmen. A fight ensues, resulting in the death of Song-do's right-hand man. Dong-soo gets him buried and clears the scene. Tae-suk is now assigned a kidnapping case, and, while solving it, he spots the killer. They begin chasing after the killer through the narrow streets, but he manages to evade the cops. Through forensic tests, Tae-suk discovers the killer to be a missing person. He informs Dong-soo, who was in a meeting with associates, about this, and he listens to a voice clip confirming the missing person to be the killer. The cop briefed Dang-soo men on the recent findings. Oh-sung grows upset when one of the cops calls Dang-soo casually. A fight ensues between both sides. Dang-soo doesn't react, but Tae-suk punishes his men for their actions, telling them they should be focused on the case at hand. Dang-soo army is given instructions and sent into the streets. Later, Dong-soo helps a high school girl by giving her his umbrella and soon learns that the girl has been murdered, and his umbrella was found at the crime scene. They start looking for the killer and eventually find him in a car. In an ensuing chase, the killer manages to kill Oh-sung, but is finally captured and incapacitated by Dong-soo. Dong-soo takes the killer away to torture him and kill him, but Tae-suk tracks them and crashes his car into the hideout, knocking Dong-soo unconscious and arresting the killer. The police have no conclusive evidence against the killer, Kang Kyung-ho. As a last resort, Tae-suk asks Dong-soo, the sole survivor of the attacks, to testify. Simultaneously, Tae-suk threatens to release a tape of Dong-soo's confession of having Song-do killed. During Kyung-ho's trial, Dong-soo arrives to testify and provides decisive testimony. Dong-soo successfully predicts the existence of a stab wound on Kyung-ho's body, previously inflicted by Dong-soo during their first encounter. Dong-soo also provides misleading evidence framing Kyung-ho for Song-do's murder. The court sentences Kyung-ho to death. However, Dong-soo is also arrested due to his illegal activities. Tae-suk is finally promoted while Dong-soo is sent to the prison where Kyung-ho is kept, the condition that Dong-soo had requested Tae-suk to fulfill in exchange for the testimony followed by his arrest. Spotting Kyung-ho, Dong-soo gleefully enters prison. In prison, while Kyung-ho is showering, he is confronted by Dong-soo. With a rope in his hand and a smile on his face, Dong-soo tells Kyung-ho that the game is over.